John McClain back here on the Rich Eisen Show. John, what can you tell me about Osweiler, how he's faring in his first week of camp?
Started slow the first day, threw a lot of balls off target, was a lot better the second day when he looked much more comfortable in the pocket. And then today they put on the pads for the first time, and the defense dominated the offense, especially in goal line and 7-on-7. But it should. Defense was ranked third over the last 9 games. The defense was first in almost every category when they went 7-2. They've got 10 of 11 starters back. That counts Watt, third year in the system, where the offense right now has 2 backup tackles, a new right guard, a new center. The only starter who was there last year is left guard Xavier Suafilo because of injuries and free agency.
So what can we expect from this offense when it's all said and done, John?
They're going to have 5 new starters, and they hope Dwayne Brown is back by the opener against the Bears. They need him to practice a week to 10 days. Their right tackle, Derek Newton, was carted off the first practice with a hamstring injury. It could take him several weeks. Jeff Allen, new right guard, rookie center Nick Martin from Notre Dame. They believe that when they have those pieces in place and everybody's healthy, they'll be good. They pride themselves on the ball coming out quick. It's a very complicated offense at the line of scrimmage. Osweiler's a smart guy. He had 7 starts. They've seen him in the last 2 preseasons. They saw him in practices against them 2 years ago. So Bill O'Brien watched him carefully, and he was the quarterback Bill O'Brien wanted, and Bill's future in Houston probably will be tied to Brock Osweiler's success or failure. And there's one great stat. Quarterbacks they had last year, Rich, you know them, Brian Hoyer, Ryan Mallett, T.J. Yates, Brandon Whedon, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So these guys know how to coach quarterbacks. They just needed the one they wanted, and Brock Osweiler is the one Bill O'Brien wanted.
How about that? In your many, many years of covering the NFL, John McClain, was DeAndre Hopkins' holdout the shortest?
It was the shortest in history because it wasn't even 24 hours because he came in after practice and went straight into the meetings. And I think he came to his senses. He had his agents on one side, a marketing guy on the other. He's got 2 years left on his deal. They're not going to redo it. After next season, they'll make him one of the highest paid players in the league. But with the exception of Watt, who was coming off Defensive Player of the Year, 2 Pro Bowls in a row, and Andre Johnson, who was already established as one of the greatest receivers, they have not done any that didn't have had 2 years left.
All right, now let's get to Watt, John. What's going on with him? You and I are currently talking.
He's jogging a little bit. He walks a lot. He's jogging. When it's 2 weeks, he said, well, they'll amp up the rehab. The surgery to clean out a herniated disc, it had been a problem last year. He treated it with treatment, and then he did an MRI, and they said it was worse. You can try treatment, but if it doesn't work, then you have to have surgery. You're going to miss regular season games. He said, let's operate. So they told him 8 weeks if there was no setback, and he rehabbed the way they thought. And so that would put him 3 days short of the opener against the Bears. He takes a lot of pride in playing every game, but he admitted because it's his back, he will listen to the doctors. And he said, I plan to be back. I don't plan on my streak ending, but if they tell me to, I will.
So what do you think? Week 1, is 99 out there, suited?
I've learned not to doubt him on anything, so I'm going to say yes, but if he wasn't, it wouldn't surprise me. They have a favorable schedule, Rich. Bears, Chiefs at home, go to New England, then they come home against the Titans. So wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't miss that one, but if he's ready to go, he'll play. I didn't think Dontari Poe would play against the Texans last year after having back surgery, but he did, and the Chiefs dominated the Texans in the opener.
What about Clowney, John? Are we going to see some quality starts out of him anytime soon in Houston?
Last year, Rich, he started 13, came out of 3, missed the playoff game, not because of his knee that had microfracture surgery. He said it wasn't even sore all year, but he had some nagging injuries with ham, groin, and then he had a foot injury that he thought was worse, and he changed a lot of stuff did chiropractor, did some MMA, did some yoga. He had gotten up to 284 because he spent that whole rookie year lifting because he couldn't run. So now he's back to 265, which is what he was when he played his junior year at South Carolina. And everyone believes that if he plays 16 games and he's healthy, he'll be a dominant player. But we will believe it when we see it.
And before I let you go, what are you going to think of when Ken Stabler goes into the Pro Football Hall of Fame Saturday, John?
I'm just sorry that Snake had to die for us to put him in there. He was passed over by the modern era. I covered him 2 years at the end of his career. Every time I think of a quarterback with the ball in his hands and his team behind, there was nobody more dangerous than Stabler. And if we'd had social media back then, he would have been an even bigger superstar because he led the life.
Would he be at the Snake? Is that what his handle would be? What do you think?
Snake something. I know that. He would have a handle on that snake. And I'm happy for his family. And because I've always thought he's one of the greatest quarterbacks. And, Brett Favre will overshadow everybody because all the Packer fans and Brett being one of the greatest. But I'm really happy for Stabler.
And so, lastly, John, to put a button on our 32 teams in 32 days on the Texans, they're the ones who have the opportunity to hold a Super Bowl in their own home stadium and play in it. That's them this year. Question is, what do you think happens when it's all said and done with the 2016 Houston Texans?
I think if Andrew Luck stays healthy, Indianapolis should win the division because they've won it 2 years, 1 year with Andrew. Texans have won it for 3. I picked the Texans 11-5. If Osweiler turns out, I think he'll be good in regular season. But as you know, Rich, quarterbacks got to turn it up in the playoffs, and that is a key. Brian Hoyer played one of the worst playoffs games in the history of football at any level with 5 turnovers and a 30-0 loss to the Chiefs. They've got to improve that position.
John, thanks. As always, love having you on. Thanks for calling.
Thank you, Rich. I enjoyed it as always.
Thank you. That's John McClain at McClain_on_NFL.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.